just as quickly as it appeared, it has gone. It's that time of year again, the annual September Nintendo Direct. And just like it, I've popped back out of nowhere. So, let's talk about it. So, let's just start with the massive Super Mario Bros. 40th Anniversary selection of announcements. And also, I just love seeing concept art from games in general, so super cool to see all this. I don't know if it's been revealed before, or if it's completely original and just shown off here, but either way, it was new to me, and I think it's super friggin' cool. Anyway, I'm gonna skip over the assortment of real-life stuff, because I have nothing to say, because most of it is either in Japan or Florida, two places I am not near. So, really cool. If you're interested in them, I'm glad. Hopefully I'll see some neat little stuff from it, but, until I visit any of these places, it means nothing to me. Anyway, let's now play with fire. The inevitable Super Mario Bros. Movie 2 has been announced, and we have a trailer for it. The Super Mario Galaxy movie, which is weird. And legitimately, just like the first film, this actually looks gorgeous, which is still insane to me considering its illumination. But love how this looks. I'm generally excited. I'll probably see it. We haven't really seen much. I think it's interesting they're adapting Galaxy, especially since the last film ended with a tease for Yoshi, who is notably not in Mario Galaxy. But, I don't know. It will probably be a really solid movie. The first one is really good. Nothing spectacular, but it was really fun, and I think this will be about the same caliber. Speaking of Mario Galaxy, we have the ports of the duology, which is inherently kind of funny to me, because you can already play Galaxy 1 on the Switch. And basically everyone pointed out that Galaxy 2 should have been in 3D All-Stars. But here we are. You want to buy Galaxy 1 again? Like, I love Mario Galaxy. I think it is a fantastic game. And 2 is great as well. And it's great that they're going to be available and playable legally. And you won't have to emulate them. But also, it feels weird to be announcing a re-release of a game that you re-released on the same system 5 years ago. Okay, maybe it's not that uncommon. Either way, it's great that these games are available. I will always be for re-releasing old games if it means preservation. Mind you, it's not hard to play the original Wii release. They're very common, and Wii emulation is some of the best, but it's still great to have a legal option. And legitimately, the merchandise we're getting to coincide with this re-release, super cool. A real version of Rosalina's storybook, that's cool, that's really cool. And the amiibo look great. And I mean, there's a new Mario tennis game. Look, I'll be honest, tried Tennis Aces, did not care for it. I'm not really interested. I'm more just covering it for the sake of including everything in the Mario section. But I have nothing to say about this, honestly. And continuing on to that, we have Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which also, fairly certain the name Mr. E has been used before, but that's besides the point. The game looks like it's gonna be a fun Yoshi romp. It looks like the other Yoshi games. At first I honestly thought it was a remake of Yoshi's Story with how the opening cutscene was playing out. Though, in all honesty, I'm not the biggest fan of the art style. It feels weird to me because it feels like they wanted to do a 2D style, but were restricted to using 3D models. It's not necessarily bad, and I'm sure I'd get used to it by playing the game, but at the same time, I really wish they just properly did a more 2D hand-drawn aesthetic. Mind you, that's personal preference. Again, I don't think it's necessarily bad. I just personally find it a bit awkward looking, but I'm sure it would not be an issue if I actually looked at it for more than the 1 or 2 minutes it was on screen in a direct. Tomodachi Life, living the dream. despite this being announced earlier this year, still genuinely kinda insane to see we're getting a new entry in this series. Though, admittedly, I don't have much to show. It's more Tomodachi Life. If you wanted that, great. That looks exactly what you're getting. I genuinely really liked the original on the 3DS back when I was a kid. I recall playing it when I was like 7, 8. Spent a lot of time on it. I think it was really cool, but legitimately, I'm really excited and happy for the people who have wanted this. Because it looks just like what I'd expect it to be, and looks like it has just as much charm as the original, if not more. Wow! A Hyrule Warriors game at a stable frame rate, hopefully? How novel! Like, in all seriousness, I am excited for Age of Imprisonment, but like, come on, you could not play co-op in Age of Calamity, because that thing could barely run. Frankly, I'm generally excited. I think the Imprisoning War is a really cool piece of Zelda lore, specifically from the open-air games. Though, I'm not the biggest fan of Tears of the Kingdom, I still think that this modern take on Zelda in the open-air games is easily my favorite take on the character, and I do generally quite enjoy the Warriors-style games. They tend to mix in a lot of the original series that they're inspired by, and tend to be quite fun. So, if this is an actually canon side story that takes place during the Imprisoning War, I'm all for that. Just don't false advertise it like you did the last one. Because I was under the impression Age of Calamity was canon. Until I played it. But the next announcement I have to talk about is one of the most confusing and stupid things I have seen Nintendo do. Because they honestly thought it was a good idea to sell the Virtual Boy again. And it'd be one thing if it was just added to the Nintendo Online Classic stuff via Virtual Console and that sort of thing that they've been doing for the Switch. But at the very least, the way they presented it within the Direct sounds like it needs an accessory. And also, who likes looking at a bright red OLED screen? I sure do. And it's not nearly as big of a deal if it doesn't require the physical thing, since, to be blunt, that would be stupid. I'd have to pay for a physical thing and a subscription to play Virtual Boy games. The like 20 of them that exist. I love Nintendo, and I love when they do weird, wacky stuff. But at the same time, this feels more like greed than them wanting to be authentic to the Virtual Boy experience. But that's not all. After nearly 8 whole years, we finally have a release date for Metroid Prime 4. And that is hype. I don't mean a release window. I don't mean something vague. Flat out, December 4th. That's really cool. And I am excited to play Metroid Prime 4. After I play the rest of the Prime trilogy. I still need to get around to 2 and 3. But genuinely, it's incredibly exciting to see this game about to release. And admittedly, I'm a bit worried about all this motorcycle stuff they're advertising in the newest trailer. That's more just because, in my opinion, a Metroidvania works a lot better if it's a smaller area that has a lot to do. So there's stuff in like every nook and cranny, rather than something like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, that's this massive area, and there's a lot to do, but there are dead ends. There are corners that don't have anything. Like, that is my personal opinion. I like both styles of games, but the motorbike desert scenes in this trailer make me feel like they might be going for a bit more of an open world approach to a Metroidvania, which is not necessarily a bad thing, just personal preference, I prefer small, nice, and just tight. Everything is in a small-ish area, and there is something everywhere. Anyway, despite it being like a month since release, Donkey Kong Bonanza already has paid DLC, which is genuinely insane. Though, on top of it being a shadow drop, which is insane, it's also ludicrously expensive. At least from what the Direct shows. One side mode and one new island does not sound like it's worth the price of admission. They are charging a whole lot for what is effectively one new sublayer. And yes, I am fully aware the side mode, Emerald Rush, is a roguelike inspired thing. However, in my personal experience, I find those types of things don't tend to work the greatest when slapped onto an existing game. They tend to work the best when the game was designed from the ground up with being a roguelike or roguelite. Donkey Kong Bonanza is not one of those. Obviously, it could be fantastic. I haven't played it. I can't confirm or deny. But, just like I did for Donkey Kong Bonanza itself, I'd wait for more people to play it, I'd wait for reviews, I'd wait to see what the general consensus is, especially considering, at least to me, it does not sound like a lot of content for the price you are paying. Poketopia, whatever your name is such an interesting game to just spawn into existence. Genuinely. It is a Pokemon town builder farming sim thing. I can't fully grasp what this game is trying to be yet, but I also know exactly what the game is going to be, which is weird. Legitimately, the game's cute. The character design on the weird human ditto thing is weird. That's not a bad thing. It's clearly what they're going for. I think it's neat. I think it actually has some really great animations. The way it's animated is really cool. But my question just becomes, why? Like, I genuinely cannot tell why this game exists, I suppose. I think it could be interesting. I really don't know. This is, I think, the announcement in the entire presentation that was the most out of left field, because I still do not fully comprehend what this game is supposed to be. Either way, let's move on to the announcement I was most expecting, but also was the most exciting. That being the 3 brand new megas for Legends ZA, the Mega Kalos starters. Something that has been a long time coming. Ever since this game was announced, it was clear they were not going to miss an opportunity to give Greninja a new form. And considering my second favorite Pokemon, just of all time, is Chespin, I was incredibly excited for the day this inevitability was going to come true. And that day is today. / several months after the game releases. Yeah, let's talk about that. Why are they ranked battle rewards? Why do they require an NSO membership? Why do I have to wait till Season 2 to get the second one, let alone Season 3 for the one I want? Why couldn't these just be a collectible or obtained under normal methods? I'm still incredibly excited that this has happened, but I really wanted to use this in my playthrough. Plus, I kind of personally am not the biggest fan of online ranked play especially Pokemon competitive stuff. It just isn't my cup of tea, but I guess I don't have a choice now. Because I'm going to use Mega Chestnut. They are not going to stop me. Anyway, like almost every Pokemon game before it, except Legends Arceus, we are getting a additional story in the form of DLC, like they've been doing since Sword and Shield. Pokemon Mega Dimension, with 2 different Mega Raichus. And I'll be entirely honest, I initially thought Mega Raichu Y was a Pikachu. And I was like, they did not seriously give Pikachu a Mega Evolution, breaking the rules of it has to be fully evolved. Nope, just a very Pikachu-esque Raichu. And I'm excited, honestly. The DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is so much better than the base games, and I really liked Scarlet and Violet, and honestly, I can say the same thing about Sword and Shield and its DLC. Though, I just care a lot less about Sword and Shield. Genuinely, there's a lot that is exciting about seeing Pokemon ZA get so much content and so much promotion. Especially since X and Y were my first games. Anyway, let's move on to an announcement that really surprised me, but I was expecting to hear something like this soon. Danganronpa 2x2. Because for some reason, Danganronpa 2 specifically is getting a remake. And for clarification, I like Danganronpa. I've played the whole trilogy. But it just seems weird to me that of all games, you just randomly choose to remake the second one in a trilogy that is not self-contained. You very much should be aware of the events of Danganronpa 1 before you play Danganronpa 2. And the same thing can be said for Danganronpa 3. Also, I'm just flat out gonna say this, the animations feel way too lively, which sounds like a really weird or stupid complaint. But, I don't know. Going from the very stiff images that the trilogy originally uses to the very bouncy and bubbly keyframing that this remake is showing feels weird. And with an all-new side story that could potentially breathe new life into the game, or even the series, I'm quite intrigued. Either way, we have one last thing to talk about from this presentation. A brand new Fire Emblem game. And I'm just gonna say this now. The second I saw those weapons these characters were wielding, I thought it was very Three House-esque, because that game has a very distinct style of weapon. I'm right. So yeah, our next Fire Emblem game is going to be taking place in, likely, Fodland. Mind you, I have no clue when. Genuinely, with how this franchise can be, this could be like a million years after the events of Three Houses. It can be quite difficult to say. But I am interested, because I quite like Fire Emblem. Though, it can be hit or miss, in all honesty. The games tend to have either an amazing story and mid-gameplay, or a horrible story and peak gameplay. I'm looking at you, Engage. Though, I am mildly worried about the protagonist. Kai looks like he may be the youngest lead in the series. Or at very least, close in age to Roy. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But like, the kid looks like he's 10. I'm just mildly worried we're gonna get some bratty kid as the lead. But it's hard to say. There's definitely a lot you could take away from this trailer if I were to spend hours watching it, because there is a lot in it. And admittedly, I will say this much. Please give me dragon units. Please. It feels like modern Fire Emblem is allergic to dragon units, and that is the one thing I want to see return the most. And if you're wondering why I'm so unsure as to when this game takes place relative to Three Houses, and you aren't familiar with this series, but are aware this character right here is Solthis, this is Tiki. Dragons in this franchise age insanely weirdly. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? And I will see you in the next one. Bye!